Hello and welcome, everyone. Today, I want to share a very interesting and important story with you. This story is about something that happened recently between the former President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump, and the President of Ukraine, Mr. Volodymyr Zelensky. But this story is not only about politics. It is also about power, about how people try to convince each other, and how they make important decisions through talking and listening. This story will also help you improve your English. You will hear how real people in high positions speak to each other. You will learn how to express your thoughts and opinions in a clear way. You will also see how to respond when someone challenges your ideas. We will explore new words and phrases that are often used when people talk about international issues. So now, relax, pay attention, and let's start this very dramatic and important story. Part 1. The arrival and the first words. It was a cold morning in Washington, D.C. Even though the sun was shining in the sky, the air felt heavy and serious. There was a feeling that something important was going to happen. President Zelensky had just arrived in the United States. His airplane had landed a short while ago. He stepped out of the plane wearing his usual military-style clothes. His face looked tired because his country was still in the middle of a war. He had also traveled for nearly 10 hours to get there. But he made the trip because the meeting was very important for him and for Ukraine. President Zelensky arrived at the White House at exactly 10:30 in the morning. Many cameras were flashing. Reporters were whispering to each other, trying to guess what would happen inside the building. Inside the Oval Office, which is the main office of the U.S. President, Mr. Trump was already sitting. He was sitting back in his chair and looked very confident, like he always does. A small smile appeared on his face as he waited. When President Zelensky entered the room, Mr. Trump stood up, walked toward him, and shook his hand in a strong way. Trump smiled and said, "Mr. President, welcome back. That must have been a long flight, right?" President Zelensky nodded and replied, "Yes, it was a long flight, but I am here because this meeting is very important." Both leaders sat down. The cameras continued to record. People all over the world were watching the meeting. On television and online, Mr. Trump leaned forward and placed his elbows on the desk. He wanted to show that he was in control of the conversation, or at least that is how he felt. Trump said, "So tell me, Volodymyr, how are things in Ukraine right now?" Zelensky answered, "As you know, we are still in a war. We need more help from the United States. We need weapons, money, and strong actions against Russia." At this point, the meeting became more serious. Instead of giving a quick answer, Mr. Trump smiled again. He looked at President Zelensky carefully and then said, "You know, Vladimir, many people believe that this war could have been avoided. Maybe if the discussions with President Putin were handled differently, we would not be in this situation now." Zelensky's face became more serious. His smile disappeared. He replied, "With all respect, Mr. President, we did try to negotiate. But President Putin does not keep his promises." For a moment, the room became completely silent. The air felt heavy. Then Mr. Trump gently tapped his fingers on the desk and said, with a small laugh, "I like leaders who know how to make good deals. I believe that in every war there is a possible agreement somewhere." Zelensky leaned forward, too. He was not there to play games, he said, "and I believe that in every war there are people who suffer. My people are dying. This is not just politics for me." This time, Mr. Trump did not smile. Part 2. The tension grows stronger as the meeting continued. The feelings in the room grew more tense. The atmosphere became more uncomfortable. President Trump and the Vice President of the United States, Mr. J.D. Vance, started to express their feelings more directly. Vice President Vance said, "Mr. President Zelensky, I say this with respect. It is not proper to come into the Oval Office and try to argue in front of the American press. You should be thanking President Trump for trying to help end this conflict." Zelensky responded, "Everyone has problems during a war, even you. But you have a large ocean and you may not feel the war now. But you might feel it in the future. God bless you, and I hope you never have to go through war." Trump then interrupted, "You don't know that. Don't try to tell us what we will feel." At that moment, the conversation started to focus on something else: President Zelensky's clothes. Since the beginning of the war, he had always worn military-style clothing to show that he was fighting alongside his people. But this became a topic of criticism. Brian Glenn, a political commentator who supports Mr. Trump, said, "Mr. President Zelensky, don't you think it's disrespectful to meet the President of the United States without wearing a formal suit?" Zelensky answered, "I will wear a suit when the war is over. My clothes show the struggle that my people are going through every day." Even though President Zelensky explained his reason, the criticism continued. This moment showed how people from different cultures and backgrounds may have different ideas about how leaders should behave. Trump said, "Right now, you do not have any strong cards to play. You need to start earning them." Zelensky answered, "I am not playing any card game. I am very serious. I am the leader of a country that is in a war." The conversation became more emotional. Both sides stood firm in their opinions. Trump said, "You are taking chances with millions of lives. You are taking chances with starting a very big war. What you are doing feels disrespectful to our country. We have supported you more than many people believed we should. Vice President Vance added, "Have you ever really shown thanks? I think you are wrong." The meeting was meant to build better relationships and talk about important support. But instead, it became more about misunderstandings and personal feelings. It showed how complicated international talks can become when people do not agree. Part 3. The final moment, the room was still very tense. President Zelensky looked very frustrated. He had traveled across the world to ask for help, but instead, he felt attacked and misunderstood. President Trump and his team were making things difficult, but Zelensky did not want to give up. He knew he had to be strong for his country. Trump said, "Let's be honest, Vladimir. The United States has given you a lot of help, more than any other country. We have sent billions of dollars. And now you come again to ask for more. Where does it stop?" Zelensky looked straight at Trump. His voice was calm, but his words were strong. "Mr. President, this is not only about money. This is about staying alive. My people are dying every day. Russia is attacking us. If we stop fighting now, we will lose our country." Trump touched the table with his fingers and said, "And if you continue fighting, what will happen? More war? More damage? I don't like never-ending wars. I want peace." Zelensky's face became more serious. "Then help us. Help us win this fight. Give us the support we need." Trump shook his head. "You think you can win against Putin?" And there it was, the main issue. Had a complicated view of President Putin. Some people believed he respected Putin. Others thought he feared him. Trump said, "Putin is a smart man. He understands strategy. Maybe, instead of fighting him, you should try talking to him." Zelensky was shocked. "We did try. But he doesn't listen. He wants to destroy Ukraine." Trump leaned forward and spoke in a quiet voice. "If I were president, this war would already be over. I could talk to Putin. You know that." Zelensky shook his head. He had heard these words from Trump before. Trump often said he could end the war, but he never explained how. And that was the truth. This meeting was not just about Ukraine. It was also about Mr. Trump's future plans. He wanted to be president again. He wanted people to see him as the only leader who could manage strong world leaders like President Putin. Zelensky felt deeply frustrated. He wanted real support, not more politics. The meeting ended. President Zelensky had said what he needed to say. But nothing really changed. One thing was clear. Trump saw himself as someone who could make deals. Zelensky saw himself as a fighter. And President Putin was still watching and waiting for his next move. As President Zelensky walked out of the White House, reporters quickly moved toward him. A journalist asked, "Mr. President, how did the meeting go?" President Zelensky took a deep breath. He looked into the cameras and said, "I came here to ask for help. I still believe that America will stand with Ukraine." Then he walked away. This story is not finished. The war is still happening. The politics are still going on. The future is still not clear. But one thing we all know is this: the whole world is watching. If you enjoyed this story and learned something new, please don't forget to subscribe. This story helped you learn English in a real-world way. You also understood global events in a simple and clear style. So, click the subscribe button and get ready for more powerful stories. See you in the next one. What do you think about this? Strong conversation. Was President Trump right? Or was President Zelensky? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below.